Thank you all so much for joining me. So, here we are on another hump day, and we are uh, working through questions and working through things that concern you all and that are on your mind. And so, this week we're going to kind of follow up with last week's, that it's okay not to be okay. And we're going to talk about changes in your work environment. Don't know what just happened there, but we're going to talk about changes in your work environment. And, the question is, how am I supposed to feel about all of these sudden changes with equality and all of these things that are going on in my workplace? What am I supposed to do and how am I supposed to feel about um, all of these safe space meetings and conversations with my supervisor and my coworker and all of these circulating posts and all of those things. How am I supposed to feel about all this with everything that I'm going through and everything that's going on? Uh, that's a good question. The first thing I'll say to you is that you're supposed to feel exactly how you feel for now, right? It's like what's going to happen or what we question ourselves is what do we learn and what do we know from what we're feeling, okay? So we're going to talk about how are you feeling? How are you perceiving these changes in your work environment? Do they feel welcomed? Like it's like, oh yes, it's about time. I'm wanting these changes. I'm needing these changes. This is great. Do they feel overwhelming? There's so many, sudden meetings and there's so many social media posts going on and there's so many things, there's so many precautions and cautions to take and all of those things. How am I supposed to feel? Well, you're supposed to feel how you feel. I'll say it again. And, what am I supposed to do about, um, you know, if I get these posts that, it doesn't quite seem like no one's really getting it. Well, that's okay. Today I'm going to give you some insight on 3 tips that I think will help you to harness those emotions. Now, mind you, when I say harness those emotions, I don't mean to drown them down or to drown them out. I mean that you will harness them into productivity. Okay? And so I want to make sure that you understand how to manage your emotions while maintaining your values, because that is what your contribution and your participation is based upon, are your values. And so you don't have to totally worry about what the corporation as a whole are doing. They're taking the steps that they want to or need to take, and your part is to be at the table. That's what's important. Be at the table. And so the 3 tips that I'm going to talk about today is to be aware of emotion triggers. What do I mean by that? Okay, so all of these things are going on, they're circulating at work. You get posts, you get meetings, you run into a coworker that has a different opinion than you. We talked before about it's time for people to listen and to understand, to express and to be open. And so this will absolutely emit different feelings, right? So let's say for instance that you have a meeting coming up and you are feeling excited, you're feeling wonderful, you want to, be a part of change, and so you're there, and your emotions are that you're welcoming all these things, okay? But let's say for instance you get in the meeting and all of these different opinions are going across and it triggers a different emotion. it triggers confusion, maybe frustration. And you go, like, what the heck? Like, I'm thinking that we're here and everybody. No, you have to understand that no matter what side of an equation that you're on, when you're talking about change, that is literally changing from a behavior or a way of knowing to a new way. Well, that doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't, right? Not for you, not for the other side of the change. And so you have to be open. So when it triggers this new emotion, you have to be aware of it and say, okay, why am I feeling this emotion? Now, what do I want to do about it? What do I want to do about it? You know that this triggered because of maybe a new policy that was um, put on the table or a comment from someone. You, again, being okay with however you're feeling, remember, you have a right to say nothing at all, or to say, you know what, at this time, I don't really want to be part of this. I don't really have anything to contribute to this conversation at this time, right? Because you know that what you're feeling, if you become aware of what happens or why you're feeling it, you may realize and understand that I don't feel like this is going the way that it should. And so at that moment, if you don't want to contribute, then don't, or say you don't, and be okay with that. If at all possible, stay at the table. But that kind of leads us into what happens, my second tip. So you want to ensure the purpose to your perception. And so, how do you do that? You go on and you say, okay, so I needed to be clear. And part of that comes through education and educating others and having others to open up their understanding, right? It also means that you too open up your understanding. Doesn't mean to accept something if you feel that it's wrong, but it's incumbent upon you to understand where that perception is coming from. Where is that perception of how this person feels coming from? So if you just oppose yourself and put yourself in their position as to why they're saying that, then it can help you harness those emotions so that you can then look for and say, hey, you know what? I need to understand why you feel like this, or why this policy, you feel like this policy would evoke this type of change, or why you are expressing yourself in a way that's counterproductive to the changes that are happening and are moving forward. If you put yourself in that position, then you're better able to listen and hear what the other person is saying and where they're coming from. Again, if it doesn't line up with your values, then that's fine. But you have to open yourself up to listen in order to get to my next point. My next point is that you then have to say, you know what? Okay, all right, that's your position. I get that. I understand that. But let's say, for instance, that that person said something that was offensive, that was condescending, that you felt that way. And let's say that when you expressed yourself, when you found purpose to what you were saying and what you were feeling, and you expressed how you felt, and then they came back with this comment that was condescending or unwelcomed, then I want you to do an exercise that simply evokes thought. And so that's my third tip, is that I want you to ask questions that evokes thought. So if a person says, "Oh, it's okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. All this has been going on, and blah blah, and all these changes and COVID. Now we have to have all this going on, and the protests for equal justice and civil rights, and all of that is going on, and I just became overwhelmed." Okay, so then tell me, what did you learn about yourself? And let it sit there. Don't try to re-ask it. Don't try to clarify it. Just wait and let it sink in. You could ask a question like, what did you learn about yourself? You could ask the question, what does that tell you about what others may be feeling? Let it sink in and then let them answer. And you'd be surprised at what that will bring you. Because when a person has to ask themselves their why and has to answer that, then a lot of times they come from within and it opens up their key to understanding. And so you want to open up that understanding. Everyone needs to open up the understanding so that it gets to a point where there are not the two sides, that there is the one, because that is what everyone is working for, is to be on one, where there is no side, it's just unity. So I want you to take time to understand that whether it's corporate, whether it's academic, or whatever it is, change requires a lot of time and input. It requires people opening up their understanding and then taking action for change. And so you have to be willing to go through the process. But you have to make sure that you, one, be aware of your emotions, be aware of what triggers them. Make sure that you understand, this is why I'm feeling welcome. This is why I'm feeling that this is all a facade and they're just waiting on their time to ride by. This is why I'm feeling that this is great. I see the changes that are happening. This is why I'm feeling overwhelmed. Check your emotions, ask yourself why you're feeling these emotions, and then go to step 2 and say, how do I turn my perception of this that comes from this emotion into purpose? How do I make sure that as I'm at the table, that this is something that I can contribute to help forge this change? That is a process. And remember, no matter who you are, it is a process. But you have to stay at the table and you have to open up your understanding. And you also have to forge forward for what is right. So then 3, educate. Remember last week we talked about educate people, open up their knowledge. Then ask thought-provoking questions. Ask questions to a person that makes them turn the position and look at it from another position. As I get ready to close with you all, I think about the movie A Time to Kill with Samuel Jackson and Matthew McConaughey. And that famous court scene where he is explaining everything that happened to this little girl and all the things that these horrible men did to this innocent young Black child. And he's explaining, he has the jury close their eyes and he's explaining every single detail. And you can see that they're like, yeah, yeah, that's horrible. That's horrible. And then when he says, now, I want you to think, what if she were white? All eyes opened in terror because it was at that moment that he was able to get them to put themselves in the position of how it would affect something that they felt was important to them, and to make them realize that it's the same thing. And so as you go through, how am I supposed to go through all of these changes when I'm not sure which way this is going? Try those 3 steps each and every time that you're in with a coworker, in having a meeting with your supervisor, in a safe space open meeting with everyone. You know, you can decline to be a part of contributing to it, or you can harness that into real perception and real purpose and be part of the change. And so I want you all to remember that you can email me at rknox@vivifyu.com. That's RKNOX at VIVIFY.com with any questions that you have, or if you know that you're needing some one-on-one coaching, and because you want to make a change in your life, you're not sure how to get there, you're not sure how to get to that place so you can live and be and feel vibrant and free to achieve everything you want to, I'd love to work with you. Also for our live conversations, then you can remember to like, comment, question, and share this with someone. Someone else may find this very helpful. And so I invite you to join me again next week. And I will be pulling from your questions, and I'll give my insight. And I hope that it helps someone. I hope that it helps you to help be a part of the change that is a part of this entire nation and all of the things that everyone is moving towards. So I want to tell you that whatever you want to be, do, or achieve, it really is possible. So I will see you all on next week, and I hope you have a great rest of your day once you get over this hump day. Talk to you all soon. Goodbye.